nothing more. He picked up the phone and called the legal department directly. Prepare the full equity transfer agreement for Yuansing Technology. Have the finance department form a project team immediately. Handle this batch of gold through the cleanest channels possible. The call ended. Several departments immediately kicked into high gear. In less than an hour, the contract documents were delivered. You took the pen and signed your name right away. Old Master Tang froze when he saw that. He hadn't expected you to sign it, without even revising a single clause. But you looked at Old Master Tang, your gaze calm and steady. I'm now the owner of this company. I want a complete list of all current employees at Yuansing Technology, including their positions, salaries, and all reward and disciplinary records. Also, freeze all company accounts immediately. Seize all physical assets. Without my order, nothing is to leave. Send one final notice to everyone at the company. There will be an all-hands meeting at the suburban factory at 9 tomorrow morning. Anyone late or absent will be considered to have resigned voluntarily. I'll have people handle it as you instructed. The acquisition price for Yuansing Technology is 180 million. How do you plan to deal with the remaining gold? At that moment, you handed over a sheet of paper. I need 5 million in cash. Please hold on to the rest for me for now, Old Master Tang. Once I've dealt with the internal affairs, transfer it into the company's account. Old Master Tang looked at you with a knowing smile. He found you more unfathomable than ever. Soon after, Su Wan pushed a cart into the study. 2 black cases sat on the cart. Mr. Guo, here is the 5 million in cash you requested. You nodded. Then you stood up and gave Old Master Tang a slight nod. Then you picked up the cases and turned to leave the study. Before long, you arrived outside the main gate. You tossed the 2 cases onto the passenger seat, then started the truck and drove off. At that moment, inside the study, Su Wan spoke to Old Master Tang. Are we really going to work closely with Mr. Guo? His background is far too mysterious, and his way of doing things is so overbearing it is almost heartless. The records show his past was completely ordinary, but in just the past few days, he suddenly gained unimaginable wealth. After hearing this, Old Master Tang slowly turned around. He spoke calmly. Destroy all the information we've found. Leave nothing behind. Also, from now on, no one under us is allowed to investigate Mr. Guo in any way. Anyone who disobeys will be punished by family law. Also, if Mr. Guo needs anything, meet it at any cost. Hearing this, Su Wan's eyes turned sharp. Understood. The next morning at 8:45, hundreds of employees had gathered in the workshop at Yuansing Technology's factory. Everyone kept whispering to one another, and every face was full of unease and speculation. Just then, the roar of an engine came closer and closer. At once, everyone's eyes turned toward the workshop entrance. You held a folder in your hand and walked straight into the crowd. As you looked around at them, the chatter stopped abruptly. Then you opened the folder in your hand and called over Yuansing Technology's director. You have 10 minutes to pack up your personal belongings. Get out. As soon as the words fell, the entire workshop seemed to freeze. Shock instantly spread across the director's face. This is outrageous. Who the hell do you think you are, telling me to get out? Just then, the chief engineer stepped forward to plead for mercy. We may not have achieved commercialization yet, but we've already made breakthrough progress in materials and design. If you just give us a little more time and funding. To his surprise, you suddenly cut him off. Your project has been going on for 3 years, burning through the company's R-shed budget and government subsidies, for a total of 78 million. The battery sample you made doesn't even meet half the market standard. As for safety, it carries a severe risk of thermal runaway. Your technology is worthless. At that, the engineer could barely stay on his feet. You don't understand anything. You're destroying Yuansing. But you said coldly, Yuansing will only be ruined in your hands, and I will lead Yuansing to a fresh start and completely overturn the entire battery industry. The moment those words were spoken, everyone looked at each other. Doubt and unease began to spread. Seeing this, you continued speaking and called in several executives one after another. Then you laid out the evidence of each person's embezzlement one by one. Only then did everyone realize you hadn't come to negotiate at all, but to settle accounts. As you finished reading the last name and their crimes, the executive team completely lost its swagger. The threat of prison hung over every one of them. Even the directors had gone completely pale. But it still wasn't over. You kept calling out names, your voice like a cold scythe. From the production line to the warehouse department, even the logistics support team, every person you named had been cutting corners and neglecting their duties. Faced with the hard evidence, not one of them could say a word in their defense. They could only slink out the door under everyone else's contemptuous stares. More than 10 minutes later, the workshop had lost nearly 1/5 of its staff. Everyone who remained was silent with fear. The air was filled with an unprecedented. At that moment, you closed the folder. Then, under everyone's gaze, you took a briefcase out of the car. You threw the case into the middle of the workshop. Then you opened it in front of everyone. Inside were stacks of neatly arranged red banknotes. 5 million in cash was laid out in plain sight just like that. You said calmly, "This money is for you." The money those people embezzled and skimmed was far more than this. Starting today, everyone who stays gets a 50% raise. The wages the directors withheld will be paid in full before production resumes. Everyone, line up now. Each person gets a 10,000 yuan bonus. As soon as the words left your mouth, the workshop fell silent for a brief moment. Then thunderous cheers erupted like a volcano. At that moment, all the earlier unease and suspicion burned away. Before long, a long line formed on its own in front of the cash case. After receiving the money, everyone gave you a deep bow. But then an abrupt, discordant voice broke the moment. Sun Lei, an assistant engineer from the RID department, spoke calmly. "Director Guo, my name is Sun Lei. I used to work under Chief Engineer Chen doing materials testing. Now, the company's executive team has almost been completely cleared out. Even Chief Engineer Chen was fired. What are we supposed to produce next?" As soon as he said that, the whole room fell silent. Because a company without a production target can't keep operating. When that happens, everyone will be out of a job. At that thought, everyone's eyes turned to you. At that moment, you didn't give a long speech. You simply took out the Thor No. 7 battery. This is the answer. Starting today, Yuanxing Technology will produce only this product. Its name is Yuanxing No. 1. The next second, Sun Lei and several technicians crowded around. Their eyes were full of curiosity and scrutiny. Is this a prototype? Director Guo, may I ask what its key specs are? An energy density of 400 watt-hours per kilogram. A full cycle lifespan of 5,500 cycles. The moment those words were spoken, it was as if the air itself had frozen. Every technician there gasped. Sun Lei almost shouted, "That is absolutely impossible. Those numbers violate the laws of physics. Even compared to the world's top experimental samples, that is pure fantasy." Faced with this tidal wave of doubt, this was exactly the reaction you wanted. Is there testing equipment in the workshop? Use your best equipment and your strictest standards to verify whether what I'm saying is true. Sun Lei froze on the spot. He hadn't expected you to be so confident. Then, Sun Lei suddenly shouted, "Everyone from technical and quality control, with me." Then, he strode forward, carefully taking the battery from your hand and cradling it in his palms. Then, he led the way, sprinting toward the lab on the second floor. Half an hour later, the inspection was complete. Sun Lei came rushing downstairs like a madman. His hands trembled as he held several test reports. The test results are in energy density, 401.7 watt-hours per kilogram. Under high-intensity charge-discharge testing, capacity fade was only 0.3%, and it passed every safety test. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone stood there in stunned silence. At that moment, the block of metal before them seemed like a mountain of gold. After Sun Lei made the announcement, he could no longer hold back the turmoil inside him. He walked up to you and gave you a deep bow. "From today on, if you tell us to go east, I absolutely won't go west." You then instructed the employee by the cash boxes. Finish handing out the money and keep a record of it. Everyone is to be at work on time at 9 tomorrow morning. After saying that, you turned and left. Under the fervent gaze of hundreds of people, you rode off in the truck, trailing a cloud of dust. Inside the truck, you picked up your phone and called Su Wan. "I need you to take care of a few things. Receive the technical files I'm sending you. File the patents in the name of Yuanxing Technology as fast as possible. Classify all technical details as top secret. Also hire a top-tier professional manager to run the company. Then recruit a group of the country's top battery experts. Finally, arrange a press conference for me. Set it for 3 days from now." On the other end of the line, Su Wan's eyes sharpened. She was shocked by your swift, decisive way of doing things. "Understood, I'll get on it right away." With that, you hung up. In the study, Su Wan repeated your requests to Old Tang word for word. After hearing them, a clear look of emotion appeared on Old Tang's face. "Do exactly as he says. Use every connection and resource we have. Cooperate with him at any cost. Let's see what kind of surprise he brings in 3 days." Soon, the forces under Old Tang went into overdrive. Within half an hour, top patent firms received encrypted technical files, and 3 top headhunting firms received the same assignment. At the same time, article after article took over the tech headlines. pushing Yuansing technology into the spotlight. Meanwhile, you restocked supplies as usual, and then set out for the apocalypse world. You contacted forces such as Panshi and Ark, and told them to bring crystal cores and gold for trade. At the same time, you sent people to Tianchong Tech Park to move the batteries, and completely dismantle the production line. Next, you called Nightingale over. First, you gave her some new supplies, then had her meet with people from the 4 major factions. You knew very well that Nightingale and the others alone couldn't protect the entire Tianchong Tech Park. So you instructed Nightingale to start recruiting Awakened. The plan was to increase the number of Awakened to 100. The cooldown for this jump turned out exactly as you expected, dropping to 9 hours. It was steadily getting closer to unlimited traversal, and you stayed there for more than 10 hours. The survivors from the ruins brought a large amount of goods. Trade completed. You got over 200 kilograms of gold and 30 grams of crystal cores. You stored the gold in the dimensional warehouse and absorbed the crystal cores directly. A moment later, your power was strengthened again. The dimensional warehouse's capacity increased to 4,000 cubic meters, while your telekinesis was enhanced to lift objects weighing 300 kilograms. It could also compress and accelerate metal even further. After finishing all that, you returned to the real world and slept soundly. You didn't go to Yuansing Technology until the next day. At that moment, the factory grounds were livelier than ever. The employees couldn't hide the smiles on their faces. Every so often, a burst of exclamations would come from the lab, all of them marveling at the battery's performance. And you sat in the office, having just hung up with Suwan. She was on her way with the talent you wanted. An hour later, there was a knock on the office door. Then, a short-haired woman walked in. The visitor was Jiang Yi. Suwan followed behind her. Before you could speak, she asked, "Time is precious. Let's not waste it on small talk." The headhunting firm said, "You're about to launch a product that will change the world with this company that is on the verge of bankruptcy, because I can offer something no one else can. A product powerful enough to put every battery maker in the world out of business." At that, Jiang Yi let out a cold laugh. "I've been in this industry for 10 years. I've seen too many young people like you. Young people who dream of changing the world. Without exception, they all became the laughingstock of the industry. I came here for just one reason. What makes you different from them?" As soon as she finished speaking, you suddenly smiled. Then you got up and walked to the door. "Come with me." Jiang Yi froze for a moment when she saw that. Then he quickly caught up with you. Suwan hurried to catch up too. Before long, you arrived at the quality inspection lab on the 2nd floor. You told Sunlei to bring over the quality inspection report. After Jiang Yi took the report, he kept scanning through it. A few seconds later, his eyes were full of mockery. "Falsifying data takes skill. This report of yours is full of holes." At that, Sunlei's face turned red. He quickly argued back. Every single data point was tested by US personally. But Jiang Yi just looked around at the equipment in the lab. Then a scornful smile curled at the corner of his mouth. "Using these 20-year-old antiques. Even now, your expression didn't change at all. How do you want to test it? Simple." As he spoke, Jiang Yi took a USB drive out of his bag. "This has a top-tier battery testing protocol I developed before. It is more than 5 times stricter than the national standard. Your batteries need to be tested again under it. My people will handle every test from start to finish. And it has to be done at an internationally certified third-party testing facility." "Fine, Suwan, help me contact Elder Tang. I want to use Zhonga Testing's lab." Right now, the moment those words were spoken, Jiang Yi froze on the spot. He hadn't expected you to agree so readily, or to use the most advanced lab. Suwan immediately took out her phone and made the call. In less than 10 minutes, Suwan quickly walked over to your side. "Mr. Guo has already made the arrangements. The lab will be open to us for the next 24 hours. Hearing that, you picked up Yuansing number 1 from the table. Then, you left with the others. Soon after, you arrived at Zhong Testing Center. Jiang Yi led his team straight into the core lab. He plugged the USB drive into the computer, then placed the Yuansing number 1 battery into the testing equipment. A moment later, at Jiang Yi's command, the test officially began. One brutal test after another was carried out. For a while, the entire lab was silent except for the sound of the machines. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the testing to finish. As time passed, Jiang Yi and his team grew more and more alarmed. Yuansing number 1 performed flawlessly in every test. When the final test was completed, the steel needle pierced the battery, and all the readings on the screen were still as steady as ever. The entire lab fell silent. Jiang Yi looked at the almost perfect test report, and only after a long pause did he say 3 words. A new era. Jiang Yi slowly turned around and looked at me. I'm in. But I still have one question. Can a product like this really be mass-produced? What about the cost? That was the last bit of rational thinking he had as a professional manager. You didn't answer. You just took another USB drive from your pocket and handed it to him. This contains the complete production process for Yuansing 1, as well as the production line upgrade plan. Your task is to move as fast as possible and turn the production line into one that can mass produce it. As for the production cost, it is only 10% higher than current mainstream batteries. The moment those words were spoken, Jiang Yi's mind went blank. He took the USB drive with trembling hands. He knew it held more than just electronic data. It was also a secret powerful enough to reshape the entire global industrial order. At that moment, Jiang Yi's eyes filled with resolve. I understand. From this moment on, Sun Lai will serve as Chief Technology Officer. Everyone, come back to the company with me right now. Within 2 days, I want all of you to memorize every part of these blueprints. However, at that moment, Jiang Yi seemed to think of something. He looked at you, slightly frowning. Gudong, getting the materials needed for the production line upgrade will take a month. What are we supposed to show the media at the launch event the day after tomorrow? I'll take care of the core components. Put together a list of the matching parts and send it to me. I'll bring everything over by tomorrow at the latest. What you need to do is get the production line running before the launch event and produce the first finished unit. With that, you walked straight out of the lab. Hearing that, the others quickly got moving too. Half an hour later, inside Yuansing Technology's office, Sun Lei handed you a materials list. You took the list and gave it a quick glance, then slipped it into your pocket. Wait for my word. After leaving just that one sentence behind, you turned and left. Not long after, you returned to the convenience store. Then, you immediately activated the shuttle. You returned to the post-apocalyptic world. You took out the walkie-talkie and started calling people over. In less than 20 minutes, 3 SUVs pulled up outside the convenience store. Bai Lu got out with Zhou Yuan and Wang Chongming. Boss Guo, I've brought them. You nodded at Bai Lu, then handed over the list. Go to the tech park and bring these items back. Everything on the list must be brought back exactly as listed, even if you have to dismantle the production line. At those words, Zhou Yuan and Wang Chongming's hearts clenched, but neither of them dared object. We guarantee we'll complete the mission. A moment later, the convoy set off and sped toward the tech park. You picked up the walkie-talkie and switched it to the public channel. This is Xiao Guo. It is time to trade. Bring gold and crystal cores to trade for supplies. The moment you finished speaking, replies started coming in one after another. Over the walkie-talkie, Hanshi outpost copies, Hive copies, Lighthouse copies, Arc copies. Then you switched to the encrypted channel again. How is Nightingale's recruitment coming along? We've preliminarily selected 30 awakened ones. As instructed, we're conducting the second round of loyalty screening. Good. I don't keep useless people or ungrateful traders. As long as they're willing to work, they can have as many supplies as they need. Understood. Within 3 days, Nightingale's full roster will be delivered to you. Hearing this, you set down the walkie-talkie and waited. In less than an hour, the roar of engines rose at the same time from all 4 directions of the ruins. Vehicles from the 4 major factions pulled up in front of the convenience store. Scorpion took the lead. He set down 2 heavy metal cases. Boss Guo, this is all of Panrock's stock from this whole period. The Hornets were next, followed by the Arc and Lighthouse factions. Before long, the metal cases were opened, and the gold bars and crystal cores were counted out one by one. You casually put them into your dimensional storage. Meanwhile, the 4 major factions took turns lining up to collect the various supplies they had ordered. Box after box of supplies was carried off by the 4 major factions. There were cigarettes, liquor, rice, and meat, as well as all kinds of medicine. There were even walkie-talkies and drones. With the supplies you provided, the quality of life for the 4 major factions and the awakened gradually improved. The trade went very smoothly. In total, you gained nearly 300 kilograms of gold, as well as 42 grams of crystal cores. Soon, the square fell silent again. You immediately absorbed all the crystal cores. As a cool surge of energy flowed into your body, you could clearly feel your mental field rapidly expanding. Both the precision and strength of your telekinetic control were multiplying. At that moment, your telekinesis limit easily broke through 400 kilograms. The space inside your dimensional storage also expanded to 5,000 cubic meters. Just then, the sound of an engine came from outside. Bai Lu, Zhou Yan, and the others parked the vehicle in front of the convenience store. The back was loaded with all kinds of precision parts. Bai Lu walked to the door and said, Boss Guo, all the core components and materials on the list are here, exactly as requested. Hearing that, you stood up. Good. At that moment, the Yuansing Tech Factory complex was brightly lit. The workshop was a noisy mess, with the sound of metal cutting ringing out non-stop. Jiang Yi stood on the second-floor platform, looking down at the busy scene below. His eyes were bloodshot, but he still gave clear, decisive orders. Under his relentless pressure, the entire technical team was running like wound-up machines past their limits. Just then, a low engine roar sounded. You drove the truck to a stop at the workshop entrance. At that moment, countless eyes turned to you. You stepped down from the driver's seat and then walked to the back of the truck. You pulled open the heavy cargo doors. The next second, the compartment was revealed to be packed full of parts. Seeing this, Sun Lei scrambled over. The nearby technicians rushed in, too. Everyone moved the parts as fast as they could. Jiang Yi walked up to you without saying a word. He just looked at you deeply. Then he suddenly turned and shouted to the technical team. Sun Lei, take your team and start installing the core drive shaft. Team 2, start pre-calibrating the high-precision sensor array. Team 3, place all the alloy components in the welding stations in order. Before daybreak, I want this production line up and running. The next second, a thunderous response rang out. It made the whole workshop hum. Right after that, the workers quickly got to work. The production line that had been nothing but an empty frame was visibly being filled with precision parts. Time flew by amid the roar of machinery. When the first pale light appeared in the eastern sky, Sun Lei personally tightened the last high-strength bolt. At that point, the entire production line was fully built. Jiang Yi walked up to the main control console of the production line. He pressed the start button. At once, a low electrical hum spread through the workshop. The whole production line was like a steel beast being awakened. Hundreds of indicator lights came on one after another. Everyone's attention was drawn to it, with all the instruments working together efficiently and precisely. The entire process ran smoothly. Just as it reached the final step, a shrill alarm suddenly went off. Warning, internal pressure is abnormal and has exceeded the safety threshold. Hearing that, Jiang Yi's expression changed. He lunged to the control console in a single stride. What is going on? Sun Lei also stepped forward. His hands kept moving over the controls. He spoke with a tremor in his voice. It is the reaction at the moment the passivation film forms. The peak is far beyond expectations. The material is too aggressive. The energy released in that instant is too high. I'm afraid the casing won't hold. At those words, everyone's heart sank. They all believed failure was inevitable. But then the pressure curve dropped rapidly and stabilized within the safe range. The piercing alarm stopped abruptly as well. At that moment, Sun Lei stared blankly at the screen. Voyager 1 withstood the energy impact purely through its own structure. The deformation rate of its alloy casing was 0. Then, he suddenly turned to look toward the production line. We did it. As soon as he said that, a Voyager 1 unit slowly appeared at the end of the production line. The next second, thunderous cheers broke out. We did it. We really made it. Several veteran workers who had been up all night shouted excitedly. Even Jiang Yi couldn't stop trembling. He stepped forward and cradled the battery in his hands. Then, he raised it high toward the crowd. We did it. Meanwhile, you leaned against a car door in the distance, with a faint smile on your face. A moment later, the cheering started to die down. Jiang Yi's eyes turned sharp again. There are less than 27 hours left until the launch event. I'll put together a complete event rundown and speech draft. Everyone, disperse now and get some rest. Everyone meet at 4 this afternoon. We'll do the final briefing before the launch event. After saying that, Jiang Yi handed the battery to you. You took the battery and handed it straight to Suwan, telling her to keep it safe. Soon, the entire factory fell silent again, and Jiang Yi began going over the steps for the launch event. I suggest dividing the launch event into 3 parts. First, we'll present the data using that report from the Zhongkesting Center. Second, we'll do a live test with the actual product. Third, we'll announce future production plans and preliminary cooperation intentions. Just then, Suwan's phone suddenly rang. She picked it up and looked at the screen. Her face instantly filled with shock. President Zhang, Director Guo. Look at this. With that, Suwan handed over her phone. There was a financial news alert on the screen. Tianheng Energy CEO Zhou Zhen gave an interview and attacked Yuansing Technology as if he were the industry leader. He claimed Yuansing Technology's production line had long been abandoned and that it didn't even have the most basic battery production qualifications and called for a boycott of this kind of market-disrupting report. There was also a photo of a rundown production line attached at the end. At the sight of it, the atmosphere in the workshop instantly turned ice cold. But to everyone's surprise, Zhang Yi suddenly laughed. He stood up and walked over to the production line. Director Gi Yu, I'd like to request a change to the launch event plan. Tomorrow's launch event won't include any product presentation. We'll set up cameras throughout the entire workshop. We livestream ourselves making a brand new Yuan Xing, one on site for the whole world to see, and immediately put it through hell mode testing. Then, in the end, we'll take it apart in front of everyone, so the whole world can see with their own eyes. That Yuan Xing number 1 isn't just an empty shell. Can we handle the media and the live streaming platforms? We can. Zhang Yi's voice was firm and unwavering. You nodded at his words. Then you pulled your phone out of your pocket and called Tianheng Energy headquarters. Send them an invitation and tell them the seat in the dead center of the front row at the launch event is being saved for him. Not long after, in the chairman's office at Tianheng Energy, Zhou Zhen had just finished a meeting with investment firms. He had made Yuan Xing technology a byword for a capital scam. That interview had taken over the headlines of every major financial outlet. In his view, this war was already over. But just then, his chief assistant walked into the office. Mr. Zhou, they've invited you to tomorrow's product launch. Zhou Zhen took the invitation and opened it. Looking at the provocative words on it, anger rose in Zhou Zhen's heart. Very well. Tell them this. I accept their invitation. I want to see for myself how they're going to end this. The assistant nodded. Then he quickly left the office. That afternoon, online public opinion completely exploded. First, Tianheng Energy's official account made a high-profile announcement that Chairman Zhou Zhen would attend Yuan Xing Technology's launch event by invitation to expose the chaos in the industry and uphold market order. Right after that, Yuan Xing Technology's official account posted a poster. There were only a few bold lines on it. We're doing just one public demonstration, from components to battery, from production to disassembly. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Tune in to the global livestream. The poster hit public opinion like a bombshell and quickly turned the launch event into the focus of nationwide attention. At this moment, inside Yuan Xing Technology's factory complex, Sunlei was leading several technicians in inspecting the production line. Zhang Yi then came over to you. Boss Guo, dressed like that. I'm afraid you won't command the room tomorrow. Hearing that, you looked down at what you were wearing. You're right. Then you and Zhang Yi headed to the most upscale luxury mall in the city. Soon, you pulled up to the mall entrance in a truck. Then, you and Zhang Yi went into a high-end suit shop. As soon as Zhang Yi walked in, he said, we need suit fabric for tomorrow. Something that can command the room, but not too flashy. Hearing that, the master tailor looked you over. He sized you up in just a few seconds. He turned and pulled out several fabric samples. How about these high thread count Italian wool fabrics? After hearing that, Zhang Yi picked one up and ran his hand over it. This one. Next came the tedious but efficient measuring and fitting process. Just then, a snide voice rang out. Well, if it isn't Boss Guo, do you really think the money from your little convenience store is enough to buy even a scrap of fabric here? As soon as the words fell, Wang Hao walked in through the door with Zhang Qian in his arms. When Zhang Qian saw you, a look of disdain appeared on her face. Wang Hao, don't say that. The clothes here aren't cheap. Maybe Xiao Guo really turned things around and even paid off that debt of over 300,000. By now, you had long since left the past behind. So from start to finish, you said nothing. You simply stayed calm and let them continue taking your measurements. But being ignored like that made Zhang Qian feel embarrassed and angry. At that moment, Zhang Yi instantly understood the relationship between you, so he stepped half a pace forward, his eyes settling on Wang Hao. Your father is the president of Hongda Construction under Tianheng Energy, right? That is right. At least you've got a good eye. Wang Hao assumed Zhang Yi was trying to curry favor with him. But to his surprise, Zhang Yi said calmly, the funding chain for the Chengnan real estate project has broken. To cover the gap, your father diverted 300 million in special bank loans. Hongda's cash flow is probably under 20 million by now. But the 15th of next month is the final repayment deadline, right? As soon as the words left his mouth, Wang Hao froze in place, his face full of shock. He couldn't understand how Zhang Yi knew all those inside details. In an instant, everything Wang Hao had been bragging about was torn to pieces. Zhang Yi couldn't even be bothered to look at him again. He turned to the master tailor and said, make 2 top-quality shirts in this size, along with 3 ties. Deliver them with the clothes to this address before 9 tomorrow morning. After saying that, he took a business card out of his bag and set it on the counter. The 4 words, Yuan Xing Technology, on the card caught Wang Hao's eye. In an instant, all the recent news stories came together in his mind. The next second, Wang Hao let out an almost hysterical laugh. The president of a scam company has no right to investigate my family's company. Jiang Chen also remembered the trending story she'd seen online and started sneering. I thought you'd hooked up with some rich older woman, but it turns out you just found yourself a con artist. You two really are a perfect match. At that moment, Jiang Yi looked at the two of them calmly, but Wang Hao walked right up to him and nearly poked him in the face with his finger. Get on your knees and apologize right now. Otherwise, one phone call from me can shut your company down. At that, Jiang Yi stepped sideways and blocked Wang Hao. When Wang Hao met your cold gaze, he instantly grew a little flustered. But you didn't make a move. You just said calmly, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Yuansing Technologies factory. You're welcome to bring your media friends with you. After saying that, you didn't look